Welcome to Talent Titans, the podcast where we bring you entrepreneurs and leaders from the global staffing industry. I'm your host, Suky Sodhi. Now let's jump right on in and welcome today's Titan. Hi, welcome back everyone to another episode of Talent Titans. Today, I have Travis O'Rourke with me from the Hayes Group. Travis, welcome. And do you want to tell people who you are?
Sure. Morning, Suky. Travis O'Rourke. I work for Hayes, based here in Toronto. I'm the president of our Canadian operation and then chief commercial officer for the Americas. But that's just the work stuff. I guess if you want to know about me, I am Canadian father first to Maximus O'Rourke and Scarlett O'Rourke, husband second to Ashley O'Rourke, and then I gave kind of my brief little resume earlier. So I'm very, very happy and proud to work at Hayes.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm actually really excited about this one because many listeners have seen you at the Canadian Staffing Summit, part of the CEO panel, which was previously a LinkedIn Live, and what this next year will be the 6th year that you've been there. But this is the first time we're doing a quote one-on-one. So let me dive straight in. If you look at the world right now, I mean, you blink and something seems to have changed. What do you feel is the most misunderstood economic shift that's happening right now? That's going to impact the world of work?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, you might as well talk about AI. You're probably hoping at least some point we'll talk about AI. I do think that's a misunderstood economic shift currently. I think there's a lot of people who are worried their jobs are going to get, wiped out in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. Some jobs will. I mean, absolutely. I'd be lying if I said any different to that. But the pace of change inside organizations, particularly big organizations, is so archaic. Even if you have a CEO who wants to invest and you have the best tech team who can run implementations quickly, and you have the most phenomenal P&C team to do training and change agent type work, you're 18 months out easy before you get large scale adoption. And there are so few companies who are willing to move at that pace. I think we're in a situation where the speed of technology advancement is going to far outpace the ability for companies to actually implement these pieces of tech and make material improvements. I think there's a lot of organizations around there right now who are implementing loads of tech. The adoption's poor, the use cases are poor, and they're actually ending up quitting on them. So I think for the next little while here, the impact of AI, at least on job elimination, I think is going to be, far less than the media would have you believe. I don't want to say expected because I guess everyone's a little bit differently. I think that's a misunderstood shift right now.
I know, I agree, because I see, to your point, large companies adopting technology in 18 months for a large company, even if it's just an ATS system, something really, really simple, right? It's changed. By the time you hit that go live, it's outdated. And not to mention the financial costs involved in all of that. So I absolutely agree.
Well, technology is your audience of staffing. How many times have you had a company come in and implement a VMS system or an MSP? And they go to RFP. Let's say they go to RFP in January. It's going to be 3 or 4 months before they make a decision. Then you've got a month or two of contracting. Then you've got 3 or 4 months of implementation. Then once you implement it, none of the managers actually end up listening to you. Everyone works around the system. It takes about a year of meetings and beating people down. And then maybe the MSP is working the way that it's supposed to. So I think that's like a perfect example. Your staffing team, you use the CRM as well, that will relate to.
It is. And I guess the hardest part is getting people to actually use the system when it's in place. So let's come to Canada. What are some of the lessons that the rest of the world, the Americas and the rest of the world, can learn from the Canadian talent landscape And what should they be paying attention to that we're doing here that they're not necessarily doing everywhere else?
I can give you two. Don't do what Canada has done.
Okay, go for it. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Let's hear
yeah.
this one.
Try to address the skills gap through
Hmm.
immigration alone is a huge error that Canada has made. I think Canada has not done a good job partnering with post secondaries. It's not done a good job partnering with private institution, and we haven't done a good job looking at the what roles or what jobs we need in the future, and then coaching whether it's immigration agents or post secondaries or corporate as to how we're going to address those collectively. I think our immigration strategy from a skills standpoint has been poor. And when you have, jobs getting added every single month, but the unemployment rate keeps going up, like there's a bit of an issue there. You're bringing in lots of people, which Canada does need, and I'm definitely pro immigration. But when you still have skills gaps in tech or in skilled trades, like there's a disconnect there. And I think immigration is the right decision, but it has to be the right kind. And Canada has done a poor job of that to date. So I would say that would be number one. The second one I would say is the productivity kind of gap that Canada has. And I think we have most companies, the way to address productivity, or at least the way that they're approaching it, is try and do more, get more out of the person. And I think, a knee-jerk reaction that a lot of companies have when productivity goes down is get them back in the office and
Uh-huh.
let me see them. Because if productivity is poor, it must mean they're not working. Well, it could just mean that your competitors or other people in the space are working better or faster than you. And I love an example that the Bank of Canada used in a paper addressing our productivity gap. I guess it was 6 months, maybe a year ago. It doesn't really matter. Very Canadian. And they looked at shoveling the driveway. And they said, well, if you have a business where you shovel driveways and you've got one person out there shoveling, and maybe it takes that person 30 minutes, the way that most staffing companies have addressed this, or most companies in Canada, is, well, if I want to increase productivity, I know what to do. I'll get a second person,
Yeah.
and the two of us will shovel. And then, well, if that's not good enough, well, maybe we will get a third person. And the reality of it is, blah, 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 blah. That's not how you're going to address productivity. Well, you could get the person a bigger shovel, and it's still one person who's able to accomplish more. You could get that person a snowblower, and maybe you could do it in half the time. Or you could get that person a pickup truck and put one of those blades on the front. You could probably do a whole driveway in 2 minutes. And I think the staffing industry, Canada as a whole, our strategy to address productivity is throw more humans at it. And if you look around the world, many, many other countries, particularly in Asia, are using technology to increase that productivity. And eventually, I think, unless it's domestic product, we're going to find ourselves in a very, very difficult position.
Wow, you've just said so much there that I want to unpack parts of it. Let's do the skill shortage, immigration. I agree with you. I am definitely pro immigration. Hey, I'm an immigrant myself. But you're right. There's such a skill gap. And if you look at the trades in particular, I mean,
Yeah.
forget technology. Everybody wants technology because it's sexy, but nobody wants to do the trades. Well, as a country, if we're going to grow, we need people in that
Yeah.
qualified electricians and plumbers and everything. But the schools don't seem to be teaching that as a career or encouraging people to do
Yeah.
that as a career. What government initiatives is it going to take to get schools to start thinking differently, operate? And maybe it's not a government
Mm.
initiative. Maybe it's us business owners and executives that we have to drive that. But how do you do that?
Yeah. It's a really tricky one. Like, I think it's probably starts in the high schools, Suki, and I think there's a
Hmm.
cultural shift for
Yep.
whatever reason, whether it's, movies or media, like the working in the office is something that seemed to be where you make the most money. And the reality
Yep.
is, you mentioned, plumbers, electricians, they can make 60, 70, $80 an hour, which is 140,
Yeah.
$160,000 a year. If you want to be an electrician and work maybe in the oil sands or in mining, you could easily do $200,000 a year. The other part attached to that would be you can graduate high school and maybe within 2 years complete apprenticeship and you're off and running. The cost of student loans within skilled trades in order to kind of get up to speed to a full income potential, the risk is so much lower. Like, I mean, you can go 20 grand a year in university and come out with 80 grand in debt, or you can go
Yep.
to a trade school and come out with 20 or 30K 2 years faster. And I don't think our public schools or our high schools doing a good job of explaining that to kids. One, earning potential. Second is how quickly you can hit the workforce. And then I think it's just not sexy. Like,
Yeah.
people want to work for the big tech brands, as you say. You know, they want to work for Google. They want to work for Microsoft. Very few companies say, "Well, I want to work for, Jimmy's Plumbing." And that's a societal shift that maybe needs to happen at some point. Maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I think it's also, if you look at, I'll take my dad, right? Factory worker all his life, goes, educates us, like me and my sisters and brother, and doesn't want any of us doing that quote unquote manual work
Right.
because it was a hard slog. And that stigma seems to have stayed. I talk to a lot of people that are just like, no, our parents worked really hard and they wanted us to be an accountant, a
Yes.
business owner, a
Yes,
techie
but
person, a
why?
doctor, a dentist.
But why?
Yeah.
I think it's the assumption that the best and the brightest, well, you must go to university then. Well, I never went to university, and I think I turned out okay. But it is this stigma that success
Yeah.
means going to university and working at a desk all day. And that's the shift that needs to come out. I think, if you grow up in households that it didn't work at desks, it's probably the perception's a little bit differently. But I'm talking, wider societal, be it in the movies, glamorizing the corporate world instead of the freedom that you get working for yourself as an electrician. I think the way that Gen Z is valuing time more than career, ladder climbing, it's all there. It's all there. The people want the move. The jobs are going to be far more available in gray or blue collar type work. But again, there's something in the public schools that we need to do, educating people far earlier on this as a career path.
Yeah, because we need it. As a country, we need it, right? It
Absolutely.
is real simple. Now, the other part you talked about, us as an industry and productivity,
Yeah.
that has always been the quote unquote mindset, right? Put another office in, put 3 direct hire people, 5 recruiters, whatever, right? And it's just like
Yeah.
they've had that model. That's what every branch is going to be. Get a bunch of rookies, train them up, work them really hard, train them up, just promote and that type of thing. Why do you think, as an industry, we have not gone away from that? Why are we still so stuck in that kind of recruitment model?
I think it probably depends on the type of work you're trying to do. Like, if you're trying to compete in the very large programs, contract hiring, the 1,000, 2,000 hires per year, and that's the model that you're using, it's not going to work. You're going to get wiped out, because in order to recruit at scale, hiring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trainees at a time isn't going to do it for you. I think you need to move to more of that central delivery model where you can become experts in an account rather than a geography. So I don't think that's it. When you say direct hire, like on the permanent side, I think it's like, it works. It's profitable. There's probably much better ways to do it. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I think, is the strategy that most organizations are using when you look at direct hire, at least.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
a
I mean,
lot of us,
sorry.
yeah, and a lot of us say, "Well, this is how we were taught."
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it
yeah.
worked for us. Yeah, but showing my age here, when I first came to recruitment, we didn't even have an ATS,
That's
right?
right. Yeah,
So, and I guess we just some leaders and owners just haven't evolved around that one. So I want to bring it back to you though. Where have you personally had to grow and change as a leader then?
I think each job that you get within leadership, you have to change or adjust a little bit in some way. And this role specifically, the president or the head of Canada, it's probably the one where you have to evolve the most. And I think it is, I grew up more on the sales side of the business. I mean, you grew up on the sales side of the business. You need to be selling internally and externally just to get, alignment, and people have to like you, and all this. And I think when you get to leadership, you have to get comfortable that people aren't going to like you.
Yeah.
And there's something I've I don't know where I originally heard it or read about it, or maybe I didn't, but it's about the cost of leadership. And the cost of leadership is something that you have to get comfortable with. And if you're not comfortable with it, it's, this is not the career path for you. But I'd say number one is you have to make very hard, very difficult decisions that negatively impact people that you care about. And if you're unable to do that, then again, this is probably not the right path for you. And nobody likes to, hurt people that are close to them. But it probably leads me to the next bit is you'll be disliked despite your attempts to do the best you can for the most people possible. And sometimes the people that are hurt are those people that you care about. But your job is to make the best decisions you can to help the most people that you possibly can. And I think the third one is that the decisions that you make, the things that you say, will be misunderstood by some, and you'll never get a chance to correct yourself because you won't know how
Oh,
somebody perceived your messages, and you won't know what somebody may be thinking or saying about you, and you don't get a chance to address that. And that's like a really, really difficult thing. Every once in a while, you'll hear some rumor about yourself, and you're like, how is that possibly out there? Where did that come from? But if you allow yourself to be distracted by that noise, you can run around playing whack-a-mole all over the place. And sometimes you end up hearing that little thing, and your attempt to address that tiny little piece ends up causing a way bigger issue on the other side. So you need to just be comfortable that you're going to upset people. People aren't going to like you, and you're not going to be able to explain yourself. And that's something that I had to come to peace with, Suki.
yeah, that last one. I was speaking to a business owner. He's got to be in his 80s, I think, or very late 70s. So he's been in business a while. And we were talking about something, and he asked me a question, and I answered it. And he said, Suki, stop thinking with your heart. In
Mm.
business, there's no place for heart. I was like, because we all naturally think, okay, well, how's it going to impact people? This
Yeah,
decision, what's the impact going to be? And he's the nicest guy on the planet. He's a
sure.
great individual, right? But just even me, having had my own business for nearly 30 years, somebody stopped me and said, "You're making a decision with your heart. You can't make business decisions with the heart."
Yeah,
Right. And I was like, yeah, okay. Because you start thinking about, okay, well, I want to do this, well, this going to impact this person like this. And hopefully you work with people you like,
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? But he was so firm in his belief, and it was just boom.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, stopped
I,
me in my tracks, because I was like, you're right.
I think you have to make the best decision possible for the company, and then
Yep.
very quickly think about how can I make that decision work for my people. You absolutely want to be empathetic leaders and make decisions with your heart. You've just got to make sure that you're using all the different data points. And unfortunately, in many cases, what's best for the company isn't what's best for somebody. And like that's why
Yeah.
you're in the job that you're in. You got to do what you got to do.
So this brings me on to, okay, so talk about a risk you took, a change you made in the business, a decision you made that didn't pan out the way you had hoped. What were your takeaways from that, and how did you rectify it?
Yeah, I think I've made many poor decisions. I'm probably going to make another one today. Made many bad decisions. The
Yeah.
reality of it, right? I think I've launched. business lines that have failed. I remember one time I launched a business line that probably put about 10 people into it, 10 like really, really strong people into it, and it failed. And sometimes it's particularly early in your career when you make a big investment, you make a big move like that, you don't want to quit on it. Your
Yep.
ego is, I can do this. Look, if the company next door is doing it and I've got my 10 of my best people on it, like, who are they? Of course I'm going to do this. And it can be the wrong time. It can be the wrong market. It can be the wrong messaging. It can be the wrong people. It's usually the wrong leadership. And you really have to kind of identify where did this go wrong? Because if someone else is doing it, it's usually a you problem. But yeah, I would say business lines that I've launched, Suki, that have failed, that's totally fine. You got to take risks, but not knowing when to quit or not knowing when to pivot quickly, I'd say is the biggest mistake that I've made. Not doing it fast enough.
And I do agree, ego plays into it, but how much of that, if I just park ego to one side,
Yep.
how much of that is, oh, but we've invested $50 million in this, right?
Yep.
So just going back to what we were saying, add one more person, make this one shift, because the best laid plans, they never pan out like that.
Yeah.
So when do you know, at what stage do you know you should pivot slightly, i.e. adjust the plan, versus, okay, we need to end, no more money, we need to pull the plug on this?
I think it's all about the project structure. I think everything's a project in some way. If I could only ever have one employee, the project manager, the
Okay.
before you go into any investment, you need to set up those milestones and those gates along the way. You need to get a few first downs before you get a touchdown. You got to get a lot of touchdowns before you're going to win the Super Bowl. And if you only focus on the Super Bowl, how are you going to know if you're on track? So I would always say you've probably got other data points you can use, whether it's other offices, other business units, other people's experiences, pull from mentors, whatever it is, to figure out how long something should take. And then I
Mm-hmm.
think you have to work backwards from there. And after month one, if you don't see X, quit. By month two, you're not seeing X and Y, adjust or quit. But you have to have those gates along the way, Suki. And most people in staffing are salespeople, and you will convince yourself, oh, but that doesn't matter because or that's only not on track because of this. And you can get yourself into a spot again with that ego where even if you miss those gates or you miss those milestones, you convince yourself it's okay. And sometimes it is, but you really have to be objective with your decision making on how your plan is going. And you need to surround yourself with people who will tell you the truth and tell you that this is failing and tell you why your decisions aren't working. Or you'll continue to go down that path and you'll start throwing good money after bad money. And then 8 months in, when you could have quit 4 months earlier, you'll be out a pile of money. A lot of people probably will have quit. Maybe you'll cost yourself customer relationships. Like the problems just exacerbate. So you've got to be quick to admit failure.
You just said earlier, surround yourself with people that'll tell you the truth. Very few people really listen to the feedback or ask for the feedback,
Yeah.
or they'll surround themselves with people that are going to agree, right? So everybody around the table, and it's the same voice. People tend not to, or they tend to fear having somebody that's at the other end of the spectrum, or maybe not necessarily the other end of the spectrum, but is going to really stand up and question everything, because that person's seen as a pain in the ass and nobody wants them in their team, right? So I think it's important. Yeah, you're surrounding yourself with people, but you've got to surround yourself with different types of voices, different opinions as well,
Yep.
because that's where you're really going to get the truth.
That's right. I think the word diversity maybe isn't used as much as it was 8 months ago, and we can
Yeah.
debate whether that's a good thing or not. But the diversity of thought, uh, I think that you're referring to, is so critical to decision
Yep.
making. If everybody, I remember when I first started here, this is a British company. Every senior leader who was here had transferred over from the mothership. And to the point that you were saying earlier, this is how
Yeah.
things are done. No, this is the
Yep.
Hayes way. This is how we do it. And it wasn't until we were able to bring in some local expertise and local experiences that we were able to really kind of take it to the next step. Because the way you do things in one country is almost certainly not the best way to do it in
No.
another country. And
No.
I guess I'd use that as an example. But
No.
surrounding yourself with truth tellers is critical.
Yeah.
And
So
go ahead.
yeah. No, I was going to say. So if you were to get parachuted in a company that is a staffing agency that is struggling, right? Not hitting the numbers that they thought they were going to hit, not getting market share. What would that first 90 days look like for you? What would you do?
I can tell you what wouldn't do is
Okay.
start breaking things and touching things. I think
Okay.
if once again, like if you come in and assume, well, this is how it worked at this company, so it must work at this one. That will, you can apply that in some areas of the business, but certainly not all. So you've got to kind of relax and just watch. You need to watch the data coming in. I would say you need to spend time on the ground floor with recruiters, figure out how they're running their desk. What are they saying? What are they tracking? What are they not tracking? What are their metrics? You want to get out with the salespeople, go on as many visits as you can. What are they saying? What are they not saying? Who are they targeting? Why are they targeting? How are they controlling jobs? How are they controlling candidates? It's almost certainly a training gap of some kind when productivity, I guess, at the desk level is not working. If the organization is not winning or retaining the customers, then speaking to the customers and doing feedback sessions and getting into the back office and seeing, are we paying people on time, or are invoices inaccurate? Like, what is actually the pain there? So I think you really got to learn, Suki, because it could be at the ground level, it could be at sales, it could be leadership, it could be back office processes, it could just be general rigor, it could be anything. So resist, get all the data, and then 90 days is probably the point where you want to start making big moves. You want to make tweaks along the way. No doubt you'll come across somebody who's having a laugh or not really working hard, or there's a leader who doesn't align with your own morals, and you can send a nice message to the team that things are about to change by getting rid of that person quickly. But for big process or organizational direction moves, just look but don't touch for 90, I would say.
Yeah, because how do you know what to fix if you don't know what's broken, I guess, right? But what I see happening is people will bring in a senior executive like yourself, and they're like, we need change. We've got to turn this ship around, and you're lucky if they give you 18 months. Right.
Yeah.
It's so, and I talk to people that are executives that have actually been parachuted into companies to do a turnaround, and they've not done it fast enough. So they end up out of a job
Yeah.
because there's a disconnect between what the board wanted and what the business needs.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody that's listening to this and is making a move right now, and they're in an interview process with the board? What advice would you give them to make sure they get quote unquote agreement on from the board before they accept that job?
Great question. I would certainly, putting everything in writing is always the best thing. When you come out of a meeting with your boss, send them a note just clarifying what your understanding was, and that way you'll be measured and kind of evaluated properly going forward. I would say in a job interview process or job acceptance process, I would do the exact same thing. It'd be very rare to hire an exec where you didn't ask them what their first 90 was going to look like. So what I would say, Suki, is number one, negotiate yourself a proper severance, like right off the bat. That if you're going to get terms within 12 or 18 months, that you're going to get X. So I guess that's kind of point one.
Yep.
Secondly, would be mapping out what is the understanding for how long the turnaround should take, and then tying that to your severance package. Because in a job interview in a good market, people are usually patient and they'll say, yeah, you've totally got 12, you've totally got 18 to turn this around. We're not expecting miracles. Then you get in the seat, whether it's the market changes, the profit starts to drop, pressure tends to go up no matter what. I've never seen somebody join a company and they actually ended up having even more time and an easier board who wasn't going to put pressure on them. So I would say whatever you agree in the meeting, understand that's probably your best case scenario. Get it
Hmm.
in writing, and then focus on trying to beat that timeline.
So I'm give an example for one of my US companies candidates. He'd agreed all of that, but his quote unquote undoing was he couldn't get the top performers, the top billers to come to the table
Huh.
and align with the new way of doing things,
Right.
right? Because they'd been, this is a mid-sized company, they'd been left, because they're the top billers, they could do whatever they want because they were each billing a couple of million every year.
Yeah.
And in comes this new CEO, or CEO, it might have been VP of sales, his title, and he's suddenly trying to get him to do things differently.
Yeah.
Right. And then these salespeople these top billers completely resisted it. What advice would you have given that person that had to turn around these top billers? Now, not to make them increase sales because the sales were there, but to even follow process like documenting things.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Tricky one, Suki. Like I think my honest advice, and it's probably not the answer that you're looking for, is stop it.
No, give it.
Just
Okay.
don't, because when you come into an organization that needs a turnaround, if you've got a group of people who are billing several million per year, that is absolutely not your biggest problem. Is it? Do you need them to log things? Absolutely. Is it going to be better for training trainees? And if the person walks out the door, do you need it logged? Totally. But you have way bigger issues if you've come into a company that's a turnaround and you've got big billers. So I think sometimes the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. And when you've got top billers who are all sticking up above the population, it's easy for them to stand out more than anything. But I would say try and influence them, certainly, into getting them to do what you want. I think there's usually the carrot or the stick. And in my opinion, the stick painted orange is usually the one that works best, and find some way. But you got bigger issues to deal with.
Yeah. No, that
Sorry,
completely makes
I,
sense.
I just want to clarify one thing.
Go for it.
If it's a minor thing like logging, if you've come
Yep.
into an organization where the top billers are toxic and the top billers think they can do whatever they want and the top billers are not working well with everyone else, that's a completely different problem. And in that case, I would say you need to make personnel changes. You can either change the people or you can change the people,
Yeah.
and try and do the first. But if that doesn't work, you've got to make decisions to get the toxicity out of the organization.
So it brings me nicely into money. Profit's really easy to measure,
Yes.
right? Revenue X, cost X, and what have you. Purpose isn't. How do you know when your leadership has really made that human impact?
The stories from people. And I think for you to, I guess, evaluate, are you making that human impact? Are people staying with your organization and buying a house or a condo? Are they getting engaged? Have they gone out and started families? And I think when you can start to watch your employees grow in their careers, hit different income brackets, hit different financial milestones, hit different life milestones, to me, that's the best. Profit is great, but when you have people that work for you that have been with you 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and you've watched them grow up as humans and as parents, there's nothing better than that, to know that you and your organization has been able to afford these people the lifestyle and maybe the life moments that they always wanted.
That's a great answer.
Great.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
Great.
you're right. Because you see him, Chris in my team, I think he's been with us 10 years now, I think it is. And he recently got married, recently bought a house,
There you
all
go.
of that stuff, right? And we've seen that whole growth outside of just him professionally growing. And you're right, that is a brilliant thing to watch and
Yeah,
see
watch
happen.
if somebody has to leave your company in order to achieve whatever milestone it is they want in their life, you've got an organization problem. you've got a comp problem, you've got a training problem, you've got a career growth problem, whatever it is. So if people are staying and growing their lives around you, not just their careers, you're definitely doing something right.
Yeah. So I've got one last question for you because I know we're coming up to time.
Sure.
If you had to bet your reputation on one emerging trend in talent strategy, which one would you stake it on and why?
I would say it is on solving problems, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll elaborate on that. I think if you say somebody, their credit collection is getting out of control and they need to obviously to address that for loads of issues, primarily cash, you would say, okay, well, hey, I need another collector to come into the business. And I think that's the shift that's going to be happening at some point. And the staffing agencies who are able to solve problems, not just provide another human, are going to be the ones that
Oh,
kind of emerge at the other end. And I think what I mean by that is 10 years ago, or let's say 10 months ago, you'd say, well, give me another collector. Fair enough. But could you outsource that collection process to another country? Could you use AI to be able to collect faster? Could you develop an AI agent who's able to collect faster? Probably is the answer. Just getting another human being who's going to do things the way they always did is almost certainly not going to be the best path. And I think staffing companies, as we go forward, who are only able to address one option, which is yes, here's that human being that you liked, at some point will eventually struggle. I don't want to say wiped out because they'll always be kind of a niche, but they'll struggle. And you've got this interesting kind of divergence right now where you've got staffing companies who are coming up the value chain and we're saying we're going to start doing some SOW work. And some of it is just, time and materials type based stuff, but some of them are actually providing solutions and they'll bring in a project manager and then they'll implement that tool on their own. And then you've got other companies who are systems integrators who are starting to come down the value chain. And maybe they were only delivering solutions before, but now they're inside of that big company and they say, hey, I need 5 humans. I thought, well, I can get you 5 humans. So you've got this kind of merging of big system integrators and staffing companies starting to cross over each other's offerings. And the companies who are staying at the bottom and are only doing recruitment, I think they are probably going to struggle at some point over the next few years.
yeah, because there's, as we started this call, the traditional way has been more bodies, more bodies. Clients don't want that.
Yeah.
Clients are not looking. Actually, let me rephrase that. If you want to charge the right margins, the right fees, and be paid the higher fees, you can't. You've got to be bringing a solution to their problem rather than just saying, "Here's another person."
Yeah, I think you've
Because
got to be a partner to them, right? And sometimes being the
yeah,
partner is just telling them the data. Say, by the way, I could get you a human. It's going to cost you $80,000 per year. Or by the way, this other customer I worked with, they moved it to India. It actually only costs them 30,000 per year. Oh, and by the way, here's this other company that I work with. I recruit for them in the tech space, and they automate collections processes. And the implementation for them, I just asked them, and they said it would cost them about 20 grand. So you don't necessarily have to be able to solve the problem yourself, but you need to be able to connect your customer to people who can solve their problem. And sometimes that's going to be counterintuitive because you're not making money and somebody else is. But if you provide somebody value today, you will get business later. And
it'll come
yeah,
back. No, I totally agree with you. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your client is not to send them an invoice. Instead, connect them with somebody that's more aligned and
that's right.
is a better solution. Because no one forgets that,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Everybody remembers that.
And I think the
Fantastic.
people feel the need to repay constantly.
Yeah,
And if you keep doing somebody favors, you get this feeling inside of you. I've got to do a favor back for Suki. And
yeah.
so yeah, provide value. Business comes later.
Amazing. Travis, thank you ever so much for your time. Now, people that are listening to this and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
send me a LinkedIn, great, or my email address is firstname.lastname@hayes.com. And yeah, happy to talk to anybody.
Well, I'll make sure we add that to the show notes as well. Travis, thank you ever so much for your time. Really appreciate
Sure.
it.
You got it, Suki. Have a great
Take
day.
care.
See ya.
See ya. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Talent Titans, brought to you by Recruitment Professional Forum, where they're building a grassroots community for professionals and leaders in the recruitment industry to collaborate, advocate, and advance the profession. If you liked or were inspired by what you heard, make sure to follow, subscribe, and even leave a review. It lets more talented recruiters like you find the show. Until next time, keep on being a talent titan.